Hello, welcome to Misinformed, the podcast for movie reviews. I'm Alex Siegel, notorious ladies' man and sire to the future generation of Supermen.
Hi, I'm Alex, hoppy arachnocologist and creator of unsettling statuary art.
Today we're reviewing The Turning, the latest horror movie of 2020. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to see this movie. I had to urgently dig a grave.
Unfortunately, I didn't see it either because I had to explain to my nanny that she was fired, which she did not accept well. And the scene ended in spontaneous combustion and a big bill from the carpet cleaners.
Well, we'll push on with the review anyway. Can I please get a synopsis?
The Turning takes us to a mysterious estate in the Maine countryside where a newly appointed nanny Kate is charged with the care of two disturbed orphans, Flora and Miles. Quickly so, she discovers that both the children and the house are harboring dark secrets and things may not be as they appear.
I loved this movie. It was a terrifying portrayal of the psychic destruction of an innocent nanny. This woman takes a journey through the 9 levels of hell as she desperately struggles to protect two not-so-innocent children. I was so anxious, I chewed through my fingers down to the first knuckle. Good thing there was a hospital near the theater. What did you think of it?
Well, looking at horror movies of 2019, Midsommar was ridiculous, it was creepy and unsettling, Joker lived by the acting of Joaquin Phoenix, and Hellboy was not funny. By comparison, The Turning brings out the full arsenal of familiar scare tactics combined with modern visual effects and has a chance to be scary if you give it a chance.
My favorite line in this movie was, "That dead hand needs a manicure." What was your favorite line?
My favorite line is, "It's not that simple." The actors have to say this over and over to convince ourselves and the viewer that there is more to this story than artificially enhanced drama by emotional entanglements and the obvious solution of simply walking out the door and calling the police.
Well, let's get right into the plot. I love the world building. This house contains more than just ghosts. There's a whole community of banshees, ghouls, goblins, skeletons, and even a few vampires living in there.
This plot is a romp through tropes that is absolutely delightful in its completeness, making this film the perfect teaching tool for an introductory horror story writing class. To name a few. The first-time nanny trying to make friends with the special and evil children who lead her into a nightmarish abyss of horror that nobody saw coming. The spooky garden with spooky statues that the nanny finds delightful. And of course, a young child making drawings foreshadowing the evil that awaits. Forbidden locations, like you mentioned in a house, where, the nanny goes exploring. Finally, spiders! You must have spiders. Because unless you are a closet arachnocologist, seeing them crawl up someone's face is scary. I would say 59% of the audience was screaming.
I have to say that Kate the nanny shows astonishing employee loyalty in this movie. Despite being attacked by half the supernatural creatures in a Dungeons & Dragons game, she stays at her job and doesn't even call the police. That is stick-to-itiveness.
I want to get in a word on pacing of this movie. Like most suspense horror movies, we spend the first half of the movie pretending the ordinary shown in poor light and skewed camera angles is ominous. And when we are lulled into half sleep, the monster appears out of a closet and says, "Boo!" In this movie, it's a boy, and he rises from a coffin. He still says, "Boo." And the audience jumps, so A+.
I have one last thing to say about the plot. The interior of this house is unrealistically gigantic. It seems to have more rooms than the Empire State Building.
Yep.
And all of them are full of cobwebs and ghosts.
Yeah, I noticed that. It makes the Winchester Mystery House look small. I want to talk about the background real quick. So this movie is based on an 1898 horror novella called The Turn of the Screw by Henry James. The story of the novella focuses on a governess who, caring for two children at a remote estate, becomes convinced that the grounds are haunted. Many critics have tried to determine the exact nature of the evil hinted at by the story. However, others have argued that the brilliance of the novella results from its ability to create an intimate sense of confusion and suspense within the reader. I think that sense of confusion perfectly carries over into today's film.
Interesting. What did you think of the cast?
I just want to mention Finn Wolfhard, who got his big break in Stranger Things. He excels at playing unsettling young people and lives up to his reputation in The Turning.
I also wanted to talk about Finn Wolfhard, who plays Miles. He's one of the psychotic children in this movie. He was also Pugsley Addams in the Addams Family movie recently. The poor kid is getting typecast.
He sure is. But, with those curls, he is perfect for the role.
Let's talk about the soundtrack for a minute. The score contains rat squeaks and sticks brushing against windows, like in a windstorm. It was an interesting artistic choice.
I primarily noticed the use of drums, lots of drums. It gave the movie a tribal feel, emphasizing that all the horror comes from deep inside.
What did you think of the production design?
I was fascinated as how the plot progresses. The nanny is shedding one piece of clothing at a time, symbolizing her growing vulnerability, until she faces the final horrors fully exposed. The movie is PG-13, so there are truly clever effects and shadow plays to make this work. I thought it was delightful.
Yeah, they always seem to have a well-placed vase or potted plant.
And spiders, too.
Yes. I noticed the colors are so desaturated, it's almost a black and white movie. I think they smeared Vaseline on the camera lens, too, to create a fog effect. Stylish, perhaps, but also irritating.
Anything to add to that?
What did you think of the special effects?
Training spiders is definitely a thing of the past. Today we can use CGI to make them extra shining, showing tiny droplets of poison on their oversized mandibles. It was a true visual treat.
I appreciated how they used stop-motion animation to animate many of the monsters. It was a quaint callback to yesteryear's horror movies.
And considering that the original novella was from 1898, it's a nice touch that probably most viewers don't appreciate.
Did you catch the product placement?
Actually, the lack of sponsored content in this movie makes me wonder whether it was written off too soon by sponsors. We briefly see the branding of the drum set, but the audience is unlikely to consist of aspiring musicians, so I marked this accidental.
I noticed the advertisement for demonic kitty care babysitting services, specializing in possessed children.
Where was that sign?
It was on a billboard outside the house.
That was utterly clever. I'm not sure I would hire them for my children, though.
What did you think of the big twist at the end?
Unfortunately, this movie ends exactly as expected, with the death of one of the protagonists as the price of defeating the horror. Did you see anything more exciting than that?
I loved how it turned out this movie was a prequel to the Addams Family. I thought that was clever, and it certainly wasn't in the advertisement.
I can't say anything to that because I haven't seen the Addams Family.
Well, the moral of the movie is clear. If your workplace is haunted, quit your job.
Yes, and if you are a writing teacher and on a lookout for teaching moments, this movie will be it. An incredible tool for showing young writers what not to do if they want to write lasting stories and what to do if they want to sell a script, in fact. Many scripts, as with the tropes they learn, they'll have a toolbox of cookie cutter scenes to last them for their whole careers.
Well, thank you for listening. This has been Misinformed, the podcast for movie reviews. Now we're going to go see the movie. Goodbye.